Hello, everybody. Hello, hello. We are here to do the first of a few videos, Birth of Moses. As we see on the screen. So let's begin, shall we? And went a man of the house of Levi, and took as wife a daughter of Levi. She conceived, got pregnant, woman, and bore, that means birthed, a son. And when she saw that he was beautiful, then she hid him 3 months. So that would be like, don't take them out in public. Don't take them out in the city. Keep them private and within the home for 3 months. But when no, she could longer hide him. And when it came about that it became very difficult to hide him anymore, then she took for him an ark, okay, of bulrushes and daubed it with asphalt. Means covered it with asphalt. Okay, so a bunch of bark. An ark would be basket. It's where we get the basket, right? And she pitched it, meaning to cover, right, with asphalt, and put it in it the child, and she laid it in the reeds by the bank of the Nile. If anybody that has ever looked at that area, the Nile River has crocodiles, okay, and they love biting on anything. You would think that would be extremely dangerous, and it really was. So what happened? And she stood his sister, that means the child's sister, afar off, to know what would be done to the child basket. And came down the daughter of Pharaoh, right, to bathe at the Nile. Of course, that's dangerous. So I would have to think that back at that time, it was either that crocodiles were running rampant and they just didn't care about dying, or that they were able to somehow section off parts of the Nile River in order to be safe from crocodiles. And her maidens, her servants, walked along the side of the Nile, on the beach side, on the side of the river, basically. And when she saw the ark among the reeds, that would be who? So who saw the ark? Pharaoh's daughter. She sent her maidservant, that's her servant, to retrieve it. And when she had opened it, she saw the child, and behold, the little boy wept, right, cried. So she had compassion on him. I mean, showed love. She'd be like, oh, right? And said, one of the children of the Hebrews, this is. So she recognized his ancestry, right? That he wasn't an Egyptian, right? So let's break down the first part for you real quick, okay? There are going to come times in your life where God asks you to hand something of great value over to him, whether this be a child or a relationship or a marriage, to put it in his hands, to trust him, even though you don't know what's going to take place with what you hand over to him. Okay? And that takes great trust, just as the lady here put her own baby in a basket, put him in the river, and trusted that God would take care of him. You need to learn to do the same with things that God calls you to trust him with, such as your children, your family, your relatives, your money, your house, your car, lots of other stuff. Okay? Your heart, even your mind, because God calls you to trust him with that as well, right? Okay, so it takes a lot of faith to do that. It takes a lot of strength and a lot of faith to go, this was something that came into my hand, into my hands, and I'm going to trust God with it, even though I don't know what is going to take place. And said his sister to the daughter of Pharaoh, shall I go and call for you a woman, a nurse from the Hebrews, meaning from the Hebrew ladies? Let me go. In other words, do I need to go and search for a Hebrew woman that she may nurse for you? In other words, the Egyptian understood the mandates that Egyptians, Jews weren't really allowed to mix, right? So she's like, do you want me to go and find a Hebrewess for the child to nurse from? And said her to her, the daughter of Pharaoh, go. So went the maidservant, the maiden, and called the mother of the child. Like this would be searched for the mother of the child, and said to her, the daughter of Pharaoh, take away the child this, and nurse him for me, and I will give you your wages. Okay? So took the woman the child and nursed him, right? Fed him every day, and grew the child, and she brought him unto the daughter of the Pharaoh, and he became her son. So here is the first lie in modern movies. Okay, modern movies will try to teach you that the baby Moses in a basket swims to Pharaoh's daughter. Pharaoh's daughter immediately takes the baby in, and the baby lives with Pharaoh's daughter from the time Moses was a baby until Moses grew up. That's not what happens, as you see, right? The baby stayed with the mother, which was found by the servant. Okay? So society is lying even about biblical things. There's a movie that is Prince of Egypt. Disney movie called Prince of Egypt, right? And that's the movie I'm talking about. In that movie, they have the basket showing up, and Moses lives forever with that pretty much with that Pharaoh's family, even specifically at birth. But as you see here, Moses doesn't live with the baby. He ends up going back and staying with the mother, and she nurses him until such time as he grew, right? And then the mother brought the child unto the daughter of Pharaoh, and he became her son, adopted basically, and she called his name Moses, and said, because out of the water I drew him. Okay, so that's the first important piece of that part that you're going to need to know. According to the Bible, Moses did not go to the daughter of Pharaoh when he was in the basket and stay with the daughter of Pharaoh for the rest of his life until such time that he was called away by God. That's a lie of the world. Moses, actually, according to Scripture, was floating down the river, seen by the daughter of Pharaoh. Daughter of Pharaoh then went to look for the mother, had her servant go look for the mother, found the mother, had the mother raise and feed the child until the child was a little bit more grown, and then later Moses went to be adopted into the Egyptian family. Okay? And it came to pass in days those that when was grown Moses, when he was full grown adult, that he went out to his brothers, so more than one brother, and looked at the burdens, and he saw an Egyptian. Now, I'm assuming brothers here would be his people, right? Other Hebrews, not necessarily his brothers, because if I remember correctly, he only has one brother, which is Ramesses, in the family of the Egyptians. So I'm thinking his brothers here are actually the other Jews. And the reason I think that is because of what it says after. And he looked at their burdens. So who is theirs? Answer that question. Who is theirs? Theirs, the ones that says theirs, is the brothers. Brothers had burdens. And they saw an Egyptian beating a Hebrew of his brothers. Right? That tells you who the brothers are that we're talking about. Jews. So he looked this way and that way. So he looked for somebody to help out. And when he saw that no one was there, then he killed the Egyptian. Okay? So he's like, I'm going to get rid of this Egyptian. And he hid him. Not only did he kill him, but he hid him in the sand to hide what he did. And when he went out the second day, and behold, two men who were Hebrews, Hebrew men, were fighting, and said to the one who did the wrong, why are you striking your companion? Why are you striking someone that you care about? And he said, who made you a prince, a judge over us, to kill me? Do you intend to kill me as you killed the Egyptian? So someone knew that he killed the Egyptian person, even though he didn't think anybody saw him. When you do evil things, you might think in your mind that nobody knows. But that doesn't mean that nobody sees, because God always sees, for one. And a lot of times, he allows others to see secretly what you have done. And feared Moses. So now we talk about Moses feared and said, surely is known this thing. And when heard Pharaoh of the matter this, then he sought to kill Moses. So when Pharaoh finds out about Moses, he wanted to kill Moses when he found out that he killed an Egyptian. So as we saw, Pharaoh looked for Moses in an attempt to kill him. But Moses fled from the face of Pharaoh. That means from his sight, basically. Ran from the area. Ran out of the city. Ran out of there. And he looked to live in the land of Midian. And he sat down by a well. Now the priest of Midian had 7 daughters, and they came and drew water. So the daughters came and drew water, all of them, and they filled their troughs. That means their carrying devices to transport water, to water the flock of their father. And came the shepherds, okay, and drove them away. So the shepherds would be other people that wanted to control the water supply. And drove them away, but stood up Moses and helped them. So Moses stood against these shepherds who were trying to be unfair and controlling and all that. Right? And Moses helped them and watered their flock of the daughters. And they came to Reu, their father. If I'm saying that right. Reuel. Let's try to find out. Reuel, father. And he said, why so early have you returned? Meaning, I didn't expect this. You're returning early. What's going on? And they said, an Egyptian delivered us from the hand of the shepherds. Because they recognized how he was dressed. And also, even he drew water for us and watered the flock. So not only did he protect us, but he's watering the flock, right? And he said to the daughters, where is he, meaning the man? What is this that you have left the man. In other words, this man has done this for you. He's protected you. He's protected my daughters. He's taken care of my sheep and watered them, or my flock. Why is he not with you? Why are we not celebrating? Call the man, him, that he may eat bread with us. So they called the man that he may eat bread, and was content Moses. Meaning Moses was happy to live with the man. That's the dad, or the Reul or whatever. And gave him, that means the father, gave him his daughter Zipporah to Moses. And she bore him a son, meaning Zipporah got pregnant by Moses. They had a son. His name is Gershom, Foreigner. This is the first son of Moses, Gershom. Or, he said, a stranger, I have been in a land strange. So he's naming the kid after what transpired in his life. Now, in the old times of the Old Covenant, this is something that they would desperately do a lot. Name a child based on some sort of situation that occurred in your life. And it came to pass, after days many, those that died, king of Egypt, and groaned the sons of Israel because of the bondage, right? And they cried out. So the Jews basically were crying out under the suffering of the king of Egypt. And they cried out and came up the cry, right? Came up the cry to God. Ha Elohim, Ha Elohim, Ha Elohim, right? God. Plural. Even though it's plural, right? That's referencing the Trinity. Right? It came up to the Trinity. Plural, not singular. Okay? Because of the bondage. So that's why the cry went up. Because of the bondage, because of the suffering. Those cries went up to God's ears, and God's spiritual ears, I guess you would call it, heard cries of his people. So heard God, Elohim, plural, their groaning. He heard their suffering. And remembered God, Elohim, his covenant. So let me clarify this. The cries go up to God. He finally hears them. But it wasn't that he didn't hear them. It's the remembering is bring to the forefront of your mind. To call to your mind, to recall. He remembered it. But it was on the back of his mind, most likely, is what this means. And he remembered the covenant with who? Abraham, with Isaac, and with Jacob. So he remembers his covenant that he made. And he looked upon, God looked upon, Elohim looked upon the sons, B'nai, right? B'nai, Yisrael, took notice, Elohim looked on him and he took notice. So he's like, okay, you got my attention. I hear your cries. I understand. I will deal with it. Okay. So that's pretty much the end of this recording. Now let's try and dive into some pieces of it. Okay. So, as we said, okay, what's going on? God remembers his covenant. All this suffering is going on. When you suffer, who do you cry to? Do you cry in complaining against God? Or do you cry for help? That's what I want to say to you. Who is it that you call upon when suffering occurs in your life? Who is it that you run to? And in what way do you run? Do you run to God to complain to God? To go, God, why are you letting this happen? God, what's going on? How come you're being this evil to me? Blah, blah, blah. Or are you running to God for knowing that God is the one who can handle your situation, help you? Or are you not even running to God in the first place? Are you running the other way? That's what I want to give you, okay, guys? So thank you for your time. Be blessed.